Do you live in the US and want fast, fresh and tasty meals without the hassle of shopping or all that hard work preparation? Well, don't you worry, as a lazy man, I've got you covered. Try America's #1 meal kit service, HelloFresh, and get yourself fresh, pre-portioned ingredients delivered direct to your door. So why not eat well, stay healthy, and avoid the cost of regular takeout by trying HelloFresh? Just click the link in the description below for a special limited time discount and free shipping as well. Enjoy. Well, after 10 years of trying, we have finally made it to the summit of Northern Irish football. Today is the big day though. We've won a title, we've virtually guaranteed group stage European football. Can we finally now turn professional and start improving things off the pitch as well as on it? Yes, hello and welcome along to part 89 of Lifting Spirits with me, Daniel. We are back today at the end of season 10, finally a triumphant season. We pipped Linfield to the post on the final day with a gritty, ugly draw. And at the end of it, we asked the same questions as we've asked the last couple of years, but this time in a much stronger position. Can we please turn professional? Can we please start upgrading the facilities? And can we get European group stage football for the first time? All of those questions I hope will be answered in the next week or so. But first of all, we have got to get through the end of season review. Plan ahead for a summer that's going to be pretty tricky in truth, because we're losing our top scorer who's been on loan this year. We're losing another lone star at right back for sure. We've got to try and get back another one in the middle. There's a few contracts that are going to be disputed too. So lots of improvements needed. It is also the 10-year mark, so rather than most of our focus being on our club, we're going to have a quick look around at the UK and European footballing landscape. And of course, that big screen, the coefficients, it is a big update this year, because Linfield and Larne have done an awful lot of work and we are about to benefit from it big time. So if you're looking forward to all of that, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Let's head straight over to the end of season review. Should only be a couple of days away. But before it, we need to ask one big question. We're going to go over to the club vision. We're going to go to the board requests and we are going to ask, can we financially please turn professional? Now let us know shortly what their answer is. We'll be back for that or for the end of season review, whichever one comes first. See you in a minute. Well, some good news on the professional front, but maybe not quite as excellent as we were hoping for, because the board, after we put up a fight in a little boardroom chat, they did reject it initially, have agreed for us to go professional, and we didn't have to put up much of a fight in fairness to them. However, it's not going to be completed until June 2033, which is a whole nother season away. So for our first season in the Champions League, that is going to be a problem. Of course, we're not going to reach the group stages in that competition, but I would have liked to have been able to compete as a professional side, and it doesn't look like that's the case. However, we are on the front foot. That move is finally happening, and I'm hoping that'll mean we can start to look at the rest of our money and say, maybe with £1.5 million in the bank now, we didn't have to get it done. Can we go ahead and get a training facilities upgrade? Because if I show you quickly, something we haven't bothered to look at in this save for a while because we've not needed to. That's where we've sort of fallen behind most from the other big clubs in the nation. Because if you look at the training facilities, we're still basic. Now, put into example Linfield, who have gone to great for training and youth because they've had so much European money. It's been invested well, which is why they're improving, why they're bringing through good young players, and why them and Larne have managed to have staying power at the top. So for us, that is the biggest thing to catch up. The rest isn't too bad at the minute. But for now, we've got the message that we needed. It's just coming a little later than we expected. Well, the season review is going to have to take a backward step in this episode because we've just had a bizarre turn of events. Now, following the news that we got, 5 days ago on Tuesday, that we were going to turn professional in June 2033, I went through the playing staff. I started offering loads of new contracts out. We got players tied down for 2 years or more, and they're in the process of going through that now. However, just 5 days later, the board have come back to us and said we're going full-time with immediate effect. I'm not sure what's caused the change behind the scenes because the bank balance hasn't really changed. The European coefficient stuff hasn't come out yet. So I don't know what's caused it other than perhaps the season review ticking over. But instead of going professional in June 2033, we are now live immediately as a professional club on the 9th of May 2032, which is going to change our summer plans. Of course, I'm probably not that worried about the professional stuff with the contracts for our first team squad because a lot of them are going to get overhauled in the next 2 years. But it does mean any players that we try to bring in are probably going to ask for a bit of a premium in terms of contract. So that's something we've got to be aware of. We'll keep an eye on it during the year. But for now, let me go back and show you all the end of season review stuff very quickly before moving on to our squad, because we've got to plan this summer out. So here we go. The fans still have very low expectations, which is bizarre. They only want to finish mid-table in the Premiership. The other issue is that we've got a lot more fans coming in, so we've got more fair weather fans, but it does mean as an overall percentage of our fan base, we've got less hardcore supporters. However, the social media following is growing. The crucial news that I saw is that we're now going up from a 1.5 to a 2-star reputation club. That in the nation puts us level with Coleraine and behind only Larne and Linfield. If we have a look at the rest of the stuff at the end of season, the club vision, they want to be competitive in the Champions League, and we've got to qualify for the Europa League via the Irish Premiership, which basically means second place. We cannot finish behind both Linfield and Larne again. They want to do well in the SPFL Trust Trophy. You know how much I love that competition, but it might have to go on the back burner. We're going to have that. We're going to have the All-Ireland Cup final as well against the Republic of Ireland champions. It's going to be an interesting year. And as a result of that, I might have to bring in a few more loan players or something just to pad out the squad a little bit. Maybe 3 or 4 versatile, decent players. Maybe even keep a few that I wasn't going to originally. It was a good season injury-wise, and we are actively trying to avoid injury-prone players. So it's not a fluke that we're managing to pull that off. If we go further down the week, of course, we've got a few new deals coming in, particularly for staff. But if we go to the end of the week, the best 11 was announced, and the overall best 11 had Neil Kane breaking in a sub-goalkeeper. Probably not a surprise, because bar Ethan Ross, we've not really had a superstar in goal in this save. I think Connor Mitchell was the previous sub, and he's okay, but nothing special. The season review is great. We did really well. Now we just wait to see, can Larne get into Europe alongside the 3 of us and make it a good year for Northern Irish football? For us, let's have a look at the squad and what we plan to do this summer. And we'll talk you through all the runners and riders, because this one's going to be pretty interesting. Let's have a look first, if we get them off their holidays, at the players that we're going to lose and the players that are going to come back from their loan spells. So in terms of squad order, it looks massive at the minute. It's a little bit bolstered falsely. So let's see what we've got in what positions. And you can tell me if you agree with what I plan to do, because my initial assessment, very simply, is that we're fine in goal. Kane and Murphy will do the job for now. We're okay in defence, but we've got a bit of a problem round the corner. Patrick Kennedy's out of contract as a backup, which is no disaster. Jake Cooper's out of contract and unhappy, so won't sign a new deal. That's a problem because he's the model citizen in the mentoring group. He's also the 4th choice centre-half, so we're going to need a new player in there. And I wanted an upgrade there. So if we can have Kean and Jones as the backup next year, and then Goss alongside another first teamer, I think we've probably done our job there. So first team centre-half, that is the first priority. A right back, Akumu is out of contract, so he can't extend his loan. He's been a revelation this year. We need someone of that quality again. If we can't get it, we need a first choice right back. There's 2 players in defence we've got to replace. Left back is fine because we got Williams midway through the season. He is an absolute gem of a fullback and will improve more. Probably one of the few I'd feel confident tying down to a full-time deal. I'm also looking into midfield. Bagley's going to be off, so a few of those sort of older heads moving on. Burns I might keep because he gives us versatility, any of those midfield 3 roles. I think he can also, at a push, cover centre-half with his attributes, but he's someone who's going to be very much on the fringes. We might well accept offers for. The biggest thing I've noticed today since turning professional, if you noticed it before, look at the player values on the right. They've suddenly doubled, tripled, quadrupled even in some cases. And that might mean we get a few offers for players. Like TNS have come in before. The rest of midfield is great though. We've got Sean Daniels, we've got Robinson, we've got Whitehall. Lennon came in January, of course, with Morgan Griffiths back to fitness. Aitken, the academy youngster, is improving. And I really want to try and sign that guy from Cardiff Met Uni, Neil Daly. We've looked at him a couple of times here. Ben Parry is not out of contract this summer, so we can make an offer to get him in again. And I'm going to do it. Even though they've got this message here, you can normally get away with it if you do the big future fee, and we're going to try our best to keep him. So he will come in hopefully alongside Varma on the left. On the right, and Pardy and Poite are good. but I would like an upgrade there. It's not as important as the two defenders and the striker we're about to get to, but that's my if we can get it position, that would be great. So those two are all right, but not the long-term solution. And then up front is the big problem next season. And it sort of takes me back to what our problem has been the last couple of years in the qualifiers this season and with Bangor City back in FM21. Because you can't normally bring players in until the English clubs have done their work and you can get loan players or free agents in July, in those early qualifiers you end up with a weakened squad. So we're going to lose Rui Hartman at the end of June or the end of May, and he's not going to rejoin us because he was wanted by big clubs during the season and he's on £4,500 a week at Brighton. So that isn't going to happen. That leaves us with McElhatton, who is okay, but is not really the man I want to lead our attack long term. And it also leaves us with Mark Wilson coming back from loan, or David Aitken as another option, who is improving, but is not ready yet and probably isn't a centre forward. So striker is the biggest priority this summer. Right back and centre half, we need one player in each. And if on top of that we can get Neil Daly and a right winger as well, fantastic. So it's going to be a bit more of an overhaul of the squad than we've normally seen. But perhaps in terms of first teamers, it is just 2 loan players and then 1 or 2 upgrades again. A few players moving on, and there's going to be a lot of those backup players that next summer probably is their last at the club. But for now, we're pretty happy with the squad. Let me know if you agree with those 4 areas for improvement. And as we do that, we go over to the coefficient and the 10-year review of this save. We start with the coefficient news because we did have this problem, didn't we? With the Welsh save back in FM21, where the other clubs just did not help the nation boost its coefficient. I cannot say the same here. We are 10 years in, and bear in mind, we have not had any group stage football. We've won a couple of qualifiers the last few years. We didn't even get in Europe the first 8 seasons. So let me show you where Northern Irish football is now. First, the international team very quickly. Not much of an improvement. They're 58th. They're going to the Euros this summer. And they've got Quique Sanchez-Flores out of contract after, so I'll be keeping my eye on that job. But the nation club coefficients is remarkable. They're already in the top 30 this year, and now they have progressed even further. I think I've calculated it right here. They will be going up to 22nd place, which is a huge jump and an important one for other clubs. But for now, it's a best year for Northern Ireland. The worst 2 are coming off, the best 2 are going on. This is a brilliant stage. Now, if we can do well in the groups next year, if Linfield and Larne can make it as well, that will give us 3 teams in group stage football, which we've never had before. And it will allow us to keep pushing on and get to that big top 15, which makes the biggest difference of all. But in terms of qualification places, at the minute, the beneficiary next year is Linfield in 2nd. They go into Europa League qualifying. But look at 22nd the year after, if that's right. Both of the other sides then will be into the Conference League 2nd qualifying round by default. Not great for the qualifying coefficients, but a better chance of reaching the groups. And if we can get up towards that top 16 level, top 15 I think it is, that's when you get 5 teams. And that is when the difference starts to happen. If we have a look at where Larne and Linfield are now, they are progressing massively. In terms of their ranking across Europe, Linfield, 163rd, Larne 111th. Look at Larne's year this year. They have progressed hugely, and next season they'll be top 100. I've no doubt about that. Linfield are losing their worst year. They've had another solid one. So if we can make it 3 big teams in Europe, they look like they're going to sign good players already, then we're in a great position. But for now, let's go and have a quick look across the UK League, see how everybody's getting on. And of course, the big European competitions too. It is the 10-year mark. We can compare it to what's happened in the head coach save. We'll start, of course, with Northern Ireland because if we have a look at our team, we've just won our first Irish Premiership title. In the Championship, well, there's a battle for promotion with Ballina, Millard, Newry and Glenavon, who are second bottom of the top tier. But the league table sees Warren Point coming back up. They also reached a cup final, which was a pretty good effort. And in the third tier, well, a lot of these sides we haven't played for a long time now. But Belfast Celtic, back in the playable leagues, and up they come to the second tier. So Northern Irish football is doing well. Not many goals about in that third tier, weirdly. But let's go and have a look at the English Premier League and what's been going on over in that pyramid. Well, there's a few pretty interesting stories in the Premier League because Chelsea obviously infiltrated the big 2 in the start of the save. They got the second season Premier League title. But after that, it has been Liverpool and City dominance, and that has continued for the last 5 years. However, Liverpool are now dropping off massively. City are coming towards the end of an era with Haaland, Foden, etc. And assists, well, that's even bigger as a story. Charlie Patino never broke through at Arsenal, got sold, played a few years elsewhere, did really well. He's now back and he's the Premier League's top assist scorer. We'll be seeing how accurate that is to real life. Overall though, not too many shocks in the Premier League, apart from Birmingham perhaps, because over FM22 and 23, we've seen them constantly get relegated and struggle down the leagues. Don't forget, we took them over on Twitch last year when they'd gone down to the National League, and they always struggle financially, but here, they're a Premier League side, albeit they're going to go down again, but much better than we've seen them do in other saves recently. And Middlesbrough also up there, going down to the Championship. But no massive shocks. Leeds back in and amongst the top 6, but that's just this season. It hasn't been a regular thing. We go down to the Championship. The playoffs this season, Cardiff Palace, Swansea, Leicester, Bournemouth, Norwich, Southampton, traditional yo-yo clubs for the last 5 years. Lincoln made it up and Bradford City, but they're going back down. If you look at the top 6, there's no big shocks. Looking across the rest of the division, no one I don't think has moved by more than a division there. Just Bradford City, who are now going back down. Luton in the top half, happy to see that. Let's move down to League One. There we've got Wrexham in the League One playoffs. They continue to do well in this save. They're against Huddersfield, who have come down from the champ. At the bottom of the league, no big shocks. Mostly clubs who started in League 2 or League 1. Blackpool started in the Championship. They just avoided relegation there. But otherwise, I think the biggest surprise is Wrexham. Grimsby doing all right as well, but nothing absolutely wild. So let's move down to League 2, see if there's anything more noticeable there. Wigan in the League 2 playoffs, 2 divisions down for them. A few National League sides in there, like Maidstone, like Bromley. Mostly London-based or in that area. Oh, and Oldham are second in the league as well. They came up from the National League again. Good to see them bouncing back. If we go down to the National League itself, Rochdale, Northampton and Carlisle all in the playoffs. That's an interesting lineup. Notts County missing out still again. Stevenage in the bottom half. Leyton Orient winning the league. It looks like there's a little bit of a yo-yo in effect, but nothing really outstanding at the minute. There's not been any massive shocks. If we go down to the National League North and South, the North probably has teams that you'd expect to be there in recent times. Bit weird to see St Albans in the North, but there you go. Kidderminster going out of the playable leagues, but again, no one who's really that out of place. And in the South, last but not least, Borehamwood down a division, Dorking down a division again, and Hemel in the playoffs, our FM22 club. I'll put that one club story up in the eye above. Havant and Waterlooville going out the playable leagues too. But it's not as surprising as I expected it to be. Definitely less big shocks than in the head coach. We go across to the Cups. The FA Cup's been split well. Not a big fan of Watford winning one. Newcastle v Bournemouth coming up this year. Newcastle have won one already, as have Villa, Arsenal and Liverpool. The Carabao Cup, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Arsenal. Arsenal have been the stronger one in that competition. Lost in the final again this year. On to the Scottish Premiership, where Celtic and Rangers have rotated with the title the last 4 years, albeit Aberdeen have split them this season as well. Looks like a bit of a 3-horse race up the top there. Is that Aaron Connolly up front for them? It is. So Aberdeen have got some decent players there. Thorsby's at the side as well. If we go down to the Scottish Championship, there's no shock teams in that division. The Championship playoffs, we have got, again, no massive surprises. But again, at the top, the usual suspect, Queen's Park developing well. Down to Scottish League 1 we go. Arbroath down to the 4th tier. That's going to be disappointing. Otherwise, again, nothing massive, unless Morton go down too. And in the final one, the 4th tier, we have got Stenhousemuir getting relegated. Spartans in the playoffs for promotion. Dumbarton going back up to the 3rd tier. An interesting one. The Scottish Cup, last 3 years it's been Celtic and Rangers. The final this year, though, Aberdeen v Ross County and Hearts and Motherwell have had one each as well, added to the other sides earlier in the save. Over to Wales for our final look before we go to Europe, because the Welsh Premier League, if we get it up, has been dominated by TNS, who are still the best side, and no one's really getting closer. Cardiff Met Uni have become the second best team, mainly because of Neil Daly, who we are desperately going to try and sign this summer, and hopefully now we're professional, he'll be willing to come along. He's a super player and will improve us greatly. So we're probably going to make the 1-horse race worse in Welsh football next year. But for now, that league is progressing as well. The competition reputation improving. The Irish Premiership just gone up to 2.5 star. We're level with the likes of League One now, so real progression. Let's go and have a look at the Champions League and Europa League before we finish. Well, no surprises. Real Madrid have continued their dominance of this league. Linfield's players got the best average rating, and Chelsea, Liverpool and City, the English side's the only ones to break it. But Real Madrid, they're absolutely dominant. 5 finals, 4 victories. You can't ask for more than that. We go to the Europa League. What one's this going to be? Now that's more English dominated. 5 winners in a row. United in a final with Leipzig this year. Benfica did break the dominance briefly, but it's a different English side every time. And a league, as we see sometimes when it's playable, don't forget until about 2 years ago when we got into Europe, only the UK leagues were loaded. So I'm not shocked to see that. Whether it continues will be interesting. But good to see a German side in a final there. If we go down to the Conference League last, Hibs won it. They were the defending champions. They played in the Europa League groups. Linfield got a draw off them. So a really good effort from them. Brighton in the final with Atalanta. We did have a few years of English winners, but Hertha Berlin and Hibernian have changed that. And Lens' Andy Marshall was the top scorer in the competition. Mukul shouldn't count because most of his were in that first qualifier. And Marshall's were probably against the other Samarinese side. But Lens really starting to compete in that trophy. We've just got to hope they qualify this year. Super Cup, mostly Real Madrid, the Champions League winner. But overall, some really positive signs for English football, for Northern Irish football, and even for Scottish football too. We'll have a quick finish off with the European and the World Cup competitions. So let's start with the World Cup. The holders of France, who have won it back-to-back after Belgium in 2022. Definitely French dominance in this save, which again, given the fact that the French league isn't loaded, the French youngsters wouldn't be coming through at the same rate, is a surprise. But we're looking 10 years in and you look at those top players, they're all gems at the start of the save and they're still pretty much in their prime. We go and have a look at the European Championships. They've won the last 2 of them as well. French football is flying and they have won 4 of the last 5 major competitions. That is going to be a hard dominance to break, but I suspect in 5 years or so, when that golden generation retire, we're probably going to see a bit more from the English side. But maybe we'll be in charge of Northern Ireland by then. Who knows? They've got a good group in the Euros. They've got France, the champions. They've got England and they've got Albania. I think third's the best they can hope for there. But that's going to be our plan for the summer. Can we get this job after the Euros? Will it pop up after Quique Sanchez Flores leads this campaign? Will we be able to get the players in we need before our qualifier? Or is it going to be like this year where Akuma and Hartman came in very late on? In the meantime, we plan for our first professional season. We'll be getting staffing in. We'll be building the infrastructure. We're going to try and upgrade those training facilities too. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with my squad decisions? And do you think the board are going to let us spend the European money when we get the group stage football? Fingers crossed they will. We'll be back to find out in a couple of days' time. We'll play our first ever Champions League qualifier. We'll hopefully have some transfer news too. I'm sure there'll be a lot more news off the pitch than probably on it this year. If you did enjoy this season, a historic one for the football club, which ended with a top tier league title for the first time, then please do put a thumbs up on it. Let me know in the comments if you think we defend our title next year, or will Linfield and Larne respond and bounce back. If you want to find out, stay up to date, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. We'll be back in a couple of days' time for the transfer special. But in the meantime, we finish our season tomorrow in the head coach. That one's a pretty dramatic climax too. You can find the latest season of that up in the eye above. There's also links there to the Twitch channel, the football podcast with a lovely clip from Derby Day, and of course my FM blog page as well. But we'll be back in a couple of days' time. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you back here for our Champions League debut. We'll find out who we'll be facing and what players we'll have at the club.